I'm working on my Aloha Mystery 5-0 quilt. It's a program that you can join at many quilt shops across the country, but I've joined through Bits and Pieces in New Hampshire, my friend's quilt shop. So this was a mystery quilt. I love how it turned out. It used a jelly roll and small bits of fabric, and it's a nice throw size quilt. My challenge was, how am I going to quilt this? Do I want to custom quilt it, or do I want to quilt it in a way that's fun for me but still looks great on the quilt, maybe not a lot of work? So I decided to pull out my my current crush, which is I think it's my geometric circles, I think this is called. This is one of my stencils from my ABC collection from Full Line Stencils. So all of the stencils match together with a center line. So I could do a swirl, and then I could do this circle. I could do a star. I have a whole bunch of these, a flower, a leaf, things like that. But I just took the swirl, and I'm using this as an edge-to-edge design, and it's not a lot of quilting. This is the block in the quilt right here. Here, and it's 8 inches. So I've decided to put a swirl in the middle of every block, and then I've also and that will give me a row of swirls and a row of swirls. But I decided to put a swirl in the corner between each block too, so it's offset rows of swirls, and I'm really thrilled with how it's coming out. So what I do is I marked the absolute center of my swirl here with a dot. And then I look for, here's the corner of 2 blocks. I put the dot on it, have the line going up. I grab my pounce pad and swipe it. You don't bang pounce, you swipe it. And then the swirl shows up on my fabric. So I'm doing that for a whole column, and then I'm going to quilt it. This column of swirls is marked, and I'm ready to quilt it. I'm starting, the quilt is set up skinny-wise, so it's 6 blocks across this way and 8 blocks up and down. So I'm going to I start in the center of the quilt with the center column, and then I move out to the right and move out to the right. And every time I move out to the right, there's less fabric inside my sewing machine, so every row gets easier. Now, the swirl is all the way down here, and my thread is up here, and I don't have anything else to start it. So I'm actually going to pretend there's a swirl up here, and I am going to draw a diagonal line like that, and I'm quilting a diagonal line that would mimic coming from the previous swirl, and then I'm going to go in and stitch this swirl and the next swirl and the next swirl, and I'll show you how that works. So I have 50 weight thread in the needle, through the needle. I have 80 weight thread in the bobbin, and they're the same color. The reason I choose to use a thinner thread in the bobbin is because the bobbin will last longer, and I won't have to worry about my bobbin running out while I'm quilting, which makes me think I should check it to make sure I have enough in here to quilt the entire column. That's a maybe, but I'll risk it. I have my Batt Scooters that help me move my fabric, because I get hand fatigue trying to hold on to the fabric and move it. So I am going to stitch the top down, which is going to make it easier for me to bind it. And then I can come back and I'll stitch that diagonal. And now I am on to the swirl. I'm going to stitch the swirl now. My needle is on the swirl, and I'm going to follow that swirl into the center, and I can pause there and follow it back out. And then once I get out to the edge out here, I'm going to make another diagonal that will take me to my next swirl. So when I follow the marked line on here, I'm following it approximately, because the line's going to go away and no one will know if I followed it or not. And then when I'm going to trace it and stitch it a second time, I don't worry about tracing it perfectly. I like the look of it whenever the threads don't land on top of each other. So there, I've stitched into the center, And now I'm going to stitch all the way back out, but I'm going to stop about here and then start the diagonal down to the next swirl. If you need to mark it, mark it. The diagonal goes through a corner here, which gives me time to reposition the quilt, reposition my hands, and then without moving the quilt so that it's not pulled one way or another, I want it settled there. I can start and pick up and start into the next swirl. And I'm going to continue stitching all the swirls just like this from the top to the bottom of this column. And then I'm going to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. This is my last spiral, so I have my border here. I'm going to stitch the diagonal going to the next spiral, which isn't here, just taking the same length and angle that I would on the rest. It's all approximate, but it'll get my thread to the bottom of the column, and then I'm going to stitch a little bit of the binding area of my border. This is what the quilting looks like. It's a spiral here, 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 every 8 inches. And then the next row, I'm going to have a spiral up here in the middle of the block, because this one's on the corner of the block, this is in the middle, and it's going to end up with offset rows, columns of spirals going across my quilt. So I just going to keep quilting. I have a good audiobook going. It's going to be a very pleasant evening finishing this quilt. If you have more questions about how I quilted this, you can contact me at Debbie Brown Quilts through any social media. And also check out at debbiebrownquilts.com my online classes. I highly recommend my First Steps to Free-Motion Quilting class. It's an online class, 10 weeks, 10 lessons, several different patterns, couple hours of video in there, and you'll be making different projects as you practice your free-motion quilting skills. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.